Hello and welcome to part 3 in setting up your Bestway rectangular above ground pool with a Flowclear sand filter. I hope you enjoyed and gained valuable information from parts 1 and 2 in ground preparation and pool assembly. Please remember, before constructing your above ground pool, you will need to ensure you comply with local law. Now that you have prepared your ground and assembled your pool, it's time to connect the Flowclear water pump and sand filter. Before we get started, if you haven't already done so in part 2 video, ensure your stopper valves are inserted on the inside of the pool in valves B and that your strainer control is set to the closed position on valve A. Let's get started. Unpack the water pump and sand filter. Ensure you have purchased a bag of pool grade filter sand from your local pool shop. Pool grade filter sand is free of limestone and clay. Do not use any other type of sand. We'll start by setting up water pump and sand filter first. Do not connect any hoses at this stage. Find a suitable location where your pump and sand filter will be set up. This should be on the same side as the pool where your inlet and outlet valve A and B are located. Your pump and sand filter should be approximately 1 meter away from your pool and be placed on a smooth, solid, level surface. Start by connecting the bottom tank plate to the pump base. Please note, screws are not included to connect these together. You simply place it into position and the weight of the bottom tank will prevent it from moving. Grab the small white piping which has orange threaded locking rings on either side. This will need to attach to port C on the pump. Use the port rubber rings supplied and insert into port recess before connecting white piping onto port C. Place bottom tank on flat surface. Place the spider skimmer hob in the center of the bottom tank. Disregard the water in the sand. You should not have water at this stage. Now place the spider skimmer hob protector on top of the hob to ensure no sand flows through into the pipe of the collector hob when pouring sand into bottom tank. Slowly start pouring filter sand into the bottom tank. Stop and shake bottom tank at various intervals to ensure sand spreads evenly. You will notice the spider skimmer hob has a min and max level. Pour sand to the max line or just slightly higher, as this will compress when water is added later. Be sure not to exceed the max line by too much. Now that you have filled bottom tank with sand to max line, carefully remove the hob protector, ensuring no sand flows into the center tube. Now it's time to connect the control valve to the bottom tank. Please pay careful attention to next few steps, as you will need to ensure you align port C on the control valve with port C on the pump. Simply place control valve on top of the bottom tank, but don't tighten the flange clamp just yet. Place the bottom tank into position by placing it onto the bottom tank base plate that is connected to the pump. You will notice the bottom tank base plate has a small notch which fits into the recess on the bottom tank. Once bottom tank is in place, you will need to rotate control valve so port C on control valve aligns to port C on pump. Now connect the other side of the white piping which has orange threaded locking ring to port C on the control valve. Please don't forget to use the rubber O-ring as previously instructed when you connected the other end of the white piping to the pump. Now that the port C on the pump and port C on the control valve are aligned and connected, you may tighten your flange clamp, which keeps the control valve securely fastened to the bottom tank. Please keep the lever on control valve in the X position at all times while setting up. To move control valve between various settings, gently press down on the handle and rotate to desired position. I will cover what all the settings are later in the video. We can now connect all remaining hoses. It's important to note the two valves labelled B send water out of the pool and into the pump, and valve A sends filter water back from the sand filter back to the pool. Never run your pump while hoses are not connected to the pool. Dry running your pump and filter will damage it. We'll start by connecting two clear hoses onto valves B on the outside of the pool. This particular model has 4 clear hoses. Yours may vary. Grab your first clear hose and one O-ring. Insert the O-ring into a small recess of the clear hose. Now connect the first clear hose to one of the B valves on the outside of the pool and tighten using the clamp provided. Ensure you tighten clamp just behind the O-ring and not on top, as this will damage the O-ring. Next, grab another clear hose and repeat process for the second B valve on the outside of the pool. Now that you have the two clear hoses connected to the valves B, it's time to connect these two to the T connector. Please discard all the cable ties seen in photos. I will explain why these were used later in the video. The T connector will have 3 clear hoses connected to it in total. 2 coming from valves B and the other will go to the pump. Simply repeat the process of inserting O-ring into clear hose recess and connect the T connector using clamps provided. Now that your T connector has all 3 hoses, it's time to connect the clear hose coming down from the T connector to port B on the pump. Grab a white outlet and insert an O-ring into the recess of the outlet. Now insert that outlet through the threaded orange cap in preparation to screw onto port B on the pump. Ensure you insert the large rubber ring into the recess of port B before tightening orange cap. Finally, connect the clear hose coming from bottom of the T connector onto spout sticking out of port B and clamp it into position. Don't forget to insert O-ring into recess of the clear hose as previously mentioned and not to place clamp directly on the O-ring inside the clear hose. Your B valves are now all connected. Now place the strainer basket rubber ring into recess. Place strainer basket into position and tighten strainer lid. Now it's time to backwash and rinse sand bed before connecting clear hose to valve A. Backwashing and rinsing sand is critical in ensuring no dirt makes its way into your pool, so please take the time to perform this procedure correctly. All backwashes and rinses are performed on port D. Before backwashing and rinsing, you'll need to close off port A. Grab solid orange cap supplied with pull and place rubber ring into recess of port A and screw solid cap to close off port A. Grab your remaining clear hose and place O-ring into the recess as previously instructed. Grab another white outlet and insert O-ring as previously instructed before inserting through threaded orange cap. Screw threaded orange cap to port D and connect a clear hose to outlet and clamp it into position in preparation for backwash and rinse. The other end of clear hose should not be connected to anything and will be used to disperse dirty water out onto your lawn. Check the power switch located on the back of the pump is set to off position before connecting pump to mains power supply. Now connect pump to mains power and remove 2 stopper valves in the valves B from the inside of the pool, so water can flow into the pump when we backwash. At this stage, water will not come out while control valve on tank is set to closed X position. Have someone hold the other end of the clear hose coming out of port D in the direction you want dirty water to be dispensed. While unit remains switched off, gently press down on lever and move from X position to backwash position. This is the 2 arrows pointing backwards. Never attempt to move the lever between modes while the pump is on. Turn the unit on and let the unit run for at least 30 seconds or until the water being dispensed is continuously clear. You will observe all the dirt from the sand coming out. Once you are satisfied the water is clear, turn pump off. Then gently press down on the lever and move into rinse position, then turn pump on. Let the unit run for at least 30 seconds or until the water being dispensed is continuously clear. You will observe all the dirt from the backwash and sand being rinsed out. Once you are satisfied the water is clear, turn pump off. Then gently press down on the lever and move into off position marked as X on the control valve. Start by removing the solid cap you had placed on port A earlier. Then remove the threaded screw cap and clear hose from port D that you just used to backwash and rinse. Place the solid cap onto port D to close that off and screw the threaded cap and clear hose onto port A. Don't forget to insert the rubber ring into port recess before screwing anything to the ports. Now that the backwash and rinse is complete, port D will not be required for normal pool filtration and port D will need to be closed off. Once again, grab a white outlet and insert an O-ring into the recess of that outlet, then insert through the threaded orange cap and screw onto valve A body. You are now finally able to connect the remaining end of the clear hose onto valve A on the pool. Turn the water control valve onto the unlock position. You would have received 2 debris screens and 1 strainer with the pool. The grey strainer is not used because you will have used the larger blue one that's screwed onto valve A in part 2 video. You will only require the 2 debris screens which will get inserted into valves B from inside of the pool. This will stop anything large entering the water pump and sand filter. Ensure these are pushed in tight into valves B. Keeping the power set to off, gently press down on the lever and move on to filter position. Turn pump on and you are all set. Now just to cover additional important information about your Flowclear sand filter. Please note, you should backwash and rinse your sand bed at least once every 2 weeks or sooner depending on pool use and pump run time. I will show you an effective routine for the ongoing backwashes and rinses to save you time. Because you only get 4 clear hoses with the pool, I found it frustrating to have to constantly disconnect clear hose from valve A and use it to perform backwash in port D. So I purchased a couple of interconnecting hoses for around $7 each, so that way I wouldn't have to constantly remove clear hose from my setup and risk damaging O-rings and clamps. Interconnect as many as required to allow you to dispense water in desired area of your lawn when backwashing. One end of the hose is smaller, which fits into port D while you hold it into position without the need to screw in as seen in this example. Before performing your backwash and rinse routine, always turn pump off. Move control valve lever to closed or X position. Put your water control into lock position on valve A. Undo cap from port D and remove rubber ring from port D. In my video, I'm using the hoses I purchased, then inserting and holding smaller end into place on port D. Gently pressing down on control valve lever and moving into backwash position before turning pump on and letting the dirty water pump out. Once you are satisfied water being dispensed is clear, turn pump off and move control valve lever to rinse position, then turn pump on. Once again, if you are satisfied water being dispensed is clear, turn pump off and move control valve lever to closed X position. Remove your hose from port D, insert the rubber ring into position and screw cap back on port D to close it up. Reopen your water control on valve A, then move control valve lever to filter position, then turn pump on, and you'll see water going into the pool. Please note the backwash and rinse procedure is using water from your pool to clean the sand. Be sure to replenish pool water to avoid water line dropping below strainer and debris screen level. Never have pump running while people are swimming. I find whenever the pool is not in use, it's best to have pump turned on. This keeps water moving and filters out dirt. Always monitor the bottom tank pressure from the gauge on the control valve. This pressure gauge which tells you current pressure in bottom tank while pump is running. You should refer to your manufacturer's recommendation for a safe operating range of pressure. In my model, that is between 4 and 6.5 psi. If the pressure exceeds this range, you will need to perform backwash and rinse to lower the pressure. Mine always ran between 5 and 6 psi. You may choose to use built-in timer if you don't want to manually control. There are 9 settings. The first 4 indicate run time per 24 hours. Example, if you set to 6, it will run for 6 hours and stay off for 18. If you set to 10, it will run for 10 hours and stay off for 14. If you put on 24, this will keep pump running constantly and you will need to switch on and off when you require. The last three labelled P4, P6 and P8 means it will run for that duration, then switch off for the same duration. It's important to note when any of the timer settings are used with the exception of 24 and you switch off and back on during a cycle, then the new time of the cycle starts from the moment that you turn it back on. If you ever need to clean out your strainer basket, it's important to turn pump off and move lever to closed X position. Close your water control on valve A. Remove your debris screen and replace with stopper valves inside pull on valves B. Slowly unscrew lid and clean out basket. Reinsert basket and tighten lid. Remove stopper valves and replace with debris screen. Open up water control on valve A. Move lever onto filter position and turn pump on. If you receive this unit with your pool, this is used for chlorine tablets. I find liquid chlorine is easier and your pool supplier can advise how much liquid you need to put into your pool for best maintenance. Finally, the reason you would have noticed my clear hoses on B valves were held up with cable ties is because once these have water in them, they can become somewhat heavy and pull down on valves from outside of the pool, which causes the debris screen on the inside of the pool to sit at an angle. By gently tying these into pool frame and keeping them raised, I was able to reduce this effect. If you decided to support your hoses, ensure they are not tied higher than the actual valves as water needs to drain freely. I hope you have gained valuable information to help you set up and operate your sand filter along with other two videos in ground preparation and pool assembly. Please don't forget to like and share. Links can be found in the description.